Welcome back for another video. It's Eharbad once more, and it's the fourth and final look at the best epics to go for Cursed City, and just generally the best epics for endgame usability, but with a particular focus on what you can actually use within Soulcross. As usual, we've got a few stages where epics do feature heavily. Usually, stage 19 on Soulcross tends to be quite epic heavy, amongst others. I will try, as always, to finish this rotation. I've done the last 4 in a row, but I'm particularly concerned about stage S20 on this rotation. This combination was rotation 1. I didn't clear it the first time round. I'm going to go for a different strategy, really maximizing the damage this time. Right then, so we only have Nyresan Union left to go. I hope you enjoyed the other 3 videos looking at Talarian, Galen Pact, and the Corrupted. First up, Dwarves, a pretty good faction overall. And if we have a quick look at the epics, who are the ones that I actually used in clearing Soulcross and generally use in late game? Geomancer, obviously very strong. Did use him in a few stages where he was available. Actually, people use him as a boss killer, and that is his main kind of use in endgame. Things like Bommel, Nether Spider, etc. All coming from the A3, where you place HP burn, and then you basically use this passive to reflect max HP hits, and it's extremely strong in many instances. But from a PvE perspective, in wave clearing, he's actually pretty good as well. Decreased accuracy, you really can't undersell how useful this can be in clearing Soulcross. If you're able to resist all of the enemies' debuffs, it makes life a lot easier. He has an AoE hit, so you could put him in a stun set or a provoke set as well. Typically, you build him pretty tanky. Although he's an attack-based champion, you can see his base stats are decent for an epic attack champion. Then the A2, the fact that you can steal buffs, actually pretty useful as well. Can hit quite hard if you build him for damage. And then the A3 is a full TM depletion. Again, that is really useful in clearing some of these weird and wonderful waves. So I actually found him pretty strong on wave clear. I even, on some stage, I think I actually ran all 3 of him because I have 3 copies at level 60. And I was just TM depleting, getting HP burn all over the place, AoE hitting them with the A1. And when they did attack me, they were basically killing themselves. So it was kind of fun, kind of silly. But yeah, you won't regret building him, even when it comes to Soulcross. Rockbreaker, absolute MVP for one of the rotations of stage S19, which is really one of the hardest stages in Soulcross generally, and Rockbreaker really bossed it in the rotation I used him in. AoE provoke, so you can't weak hit, and he puts up this counter attack. So I was running him in Frostbite, generally to try and freeze them when being attacked, but you could either you could go for Frost plus Frostbite, triple Frostbite, or you could even go Stun plus Frostbite and use this counter attack to try and land those stuns. Whatever you do, clearly Fearsome Presence is the way to go on this champion. And then you also have this really strong defense stacking on the A1, really good passive as well, so you get a huge amount of damage mitigation coming from that. All in all, like a really, really solid champion that is very tanky and really helps with those wave clearing. Melga I used in one stage. I wouldn't really rush to build her. It's only a case of if building her will actually unlock a stage for you. She's generally pretty good just as a 5-star, useful for faction wars, etc. You've got two champion revive, quite a long cooldown, and it's very low turn meter and very low HP, so it's a pretty bad revive all in all. But the A3 is pretty good. You get a shield plus continuous heal, which lasts for 2 turns, but and that's on a 3-turn cooldown. And the A1 actually kind of okay. Her biggest issue, she reads a lot of books, a whole hell of a lot of books. So yeah, I'd try and get away with her just at 5-star, but she is pretty good overall. Fodbar, absolutely brilliant for various stages in Soulcross. You have an AoE decrease defense. It is on a 4-turn cooldown, which is kind of his biggest weakness. It does book up to 100%, but 4-turn, I wish they'd just give him a small buff and make him 3-turn. It would just make it that much nicer. But, whack him in a stun set and he will do good work. Then you do have a stun on the A2, which books down to a 3-turn cooldown. You basically have this buff steal, which then will place a stun if there's no active buff. So it's a pretty good ability overall. And then a triple hit A1 with heal reduction. So if he does pop up in one of those Fire Knight hard boss stages, again, really solid champion for that. Triple hit, heal reduction, plus you're getting decreased defense. So good coverage overall. Morag, unfortunately, I don't have a copy. The only one I ever got was for one of the fusions. Seems like 18 months ago or something, and I just can't pull one. But these ratings are deserved. She is god tier from the epic side. Defense base nuker with a 2 ally attack. She is available for one of the Fire Knight stages as well, and she's MVP there. She's also available for one of the stage 19s, and she's MVP there again, giving AoE strengthen and a AoE attack plus that ally attack. And she just hits hard. She just does. And you can build her super tanky because she's defense based. She won't get her damage mitigated by Taras or reduced by Taras in the way attack based champions do. And really, really healthy base stats. So, just quality champion. Beyond that, I have to say, none of them really get used that much. Demitha, obviously great for clan boss. If you are running an unkillable, Demitha does it extremely well. I've seen people use Runekeeper for a stage. I can't remember which off the top of my head. But that's kind of it. I definitely used Rearguard once, but didn't really necessarily matter. I just happened to have one built from years ago. One of my first, I actually had her in my Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss team, and I was relying on her for decreased attack and decreased defense and auto protection, continuous heal. Kind of does it all, but not consistently enough. Grizzled, another kind of old school epic that brings a few good abilities, but doesn't make the cut. Main issue here is block debuff's only 1 turn. So that kind of makes him quite awkward, and this is on probably too long a cooldown to really be that useful, and it's only a single hit. So really, in terms of the best ones, we're talking Geomancer, Rockbreaker, Fodbar, and Morag by far. Let's see if the spreadsheet agrees with me. If we click on Dwarves Epic, who gets the most stages? As always, the Void champions are winning the number of stages, but then we have our Spirit Dwarves, Rockbreaker and Morag, again getting a good number. Even Geomancer there available for 10 stages as well. Fodbar only there for 7 stages, but they are some good stages. If we go for the extreme filter, we then again see Morag, Melga, Rockbreaker, Fodbar. So that quartet is available for 2 of our extremely difficult stages. If we look at the Fire Knight 17, we do have that Morag coming in there. And if we look at the Fire Knight Soraf duo boss, again, Morag available twice on that one. So you get a lot of benefit from Morag if you're lucky enough to have her. I would definitely be trying to, get her ascended, get her blessed rather, get her higher awakening and empower her as well. She'll really benefit from those extra stats. I would probably also try and get any kind of additional stats on Fodbar, because you do want him with a lot of attributes. He's quite squishy with only 800 base defense. So you do need to build him relatively tanky, and has decent speed, but you want him fastest in general. because of the whole AoE decreased defense. Rock Breaker, less, doesn't really matter. To be honest, in terms of the blessing, doesn't benefit that much, but you might as well empower for the extra stats. And then similar with Geomancer, doesn't really matter that much. It does its job whether he's blessed or not. So yeah, Morag is the one you really want to build nice and strong. On to the Shadowkin, and if we have a look at the epics, quite a big epic list now. You see how many more epics we have in Shadowkin than we do in Dwarves. Taragi is a definite shout out, really strong, and definitely did use him in some of the Soulcross stages. You've got the ally protection, shield, reflect damage, which really helps just keep your team alive. And then you've got this AoE provoke, which the chance goes up for each debuff. So you want to get, he basically kind of, the way I ended up using him most of the time is he wasn't my first crowd control champion, it was my second. So the first rotation I would crowd control with someone else and stack out the debuffs, and then I'd usually use him on the second wave, basically, or the second cycle rather, and then I'd try and do that each round and get back to my abilities. A1 is just a straight decrease attack, and also when he gets hit, he puts out poison. So he's always been a bit of a clan boss specialist, but actually really not that bad in wave content as well. Has extremely high ratings overall. Very solid champion. Atatsu, I don't really use him, but he is usable. I have seen him used. You do get an increased defense, continuous heal. You do get a decreased attack. It's annoying that it's not 100%. It's that classic thing that Plarium love to do. Make these abilities not consistent, which just means you tend to not use them as much. And then you have a reasonably high chance to get leech out on an A1, does like a book. And then the passive kind of useful, but a bit niche and really good base stats. Again, Chani, nah, forget it. Forget it. Other than that, I have seen Fenchy used in a few stages, but I haven't actually used him myself. I ended up building a Wuji and a Suren for one of the stages. Suren, kind of disappointing again. You don't quite get 100%. You get up to 80% decreased defense, but it is the big version and it is on a 3-turn cooldown. You then have a chance for weaken on a single target. It is a double hit, so you end up with a really high chance, and then you get decent chance of poisons. I was basically using her really for the decreased defense. I can't actually remember exactly which Soulcross stage it was, but I'm pretty sure I built Wuji for the same stage. And I was mostly using her for this AoE block buffs. And the combination of being able to block buffs and decrease defense was really strong for that combination stage. Gory, I wanted to like him more, but I can't remember if I actually used him on any Fire Knight stages. I think he is available for one of them, and obviously this is pretty strong. The frustration for me is that this hard-hitting A3, where you get 50% ignore defense, only works if the enemies are under a freeze debuff. Now, the problem with Soulcross is you're not going fast enough to be able to freeze them at random and then cycle back before they take a turn to get this A3 off, unless you're running there for another freeze champion or multiple copies of Gory. It just doesn't work. Plus, this won't work against a boss. So it just, all in all, it's kind of really frustrating. You know, you want it to work because he self-buffs himself with increased attack, but only if he kills the enemy. It's not an increased attack before he hits. And you're like, well, okay, as long as he's got the ignore 50% defense plus Helm Smasher and a good build in lethal, doesn't matter. He'll kill them and then get increased attack. Great. But then he doesn't actually have an AoE hit, and he can't freeze people on the A1. No one else is freezing them. And it's just like, I don't know, it just doesn't work out. It really annoyed me because I wanted him to be very good, and I tried to use him in stage 19 as the damage dealer, and it just wasn't consistent. So I ended up using Masamoto as the damage dealer for that stage instead, purely because he's a defense-based champion, so Taras can't mess him up, and he has an AoE hit. And purely because of that, he ended up being more valuable than Gory. You also have this low chance of stealing a random buff, which doesn't really matter because I didn't build it with accuracy. I didn't need to for that particular stage. But what it was quite nice, I had someone else to increase his defense and use the AoE. And then the second time around, I actually let him increase his defense himself and then A1, basically. So I think I used someone else to increase defense, then hit with the A2 into the A1. Then I self-buffed him and used A1 and kept the A2 for the next round. And that worked out pretty well. Oboro gets a little shout out because she's pretty strong for Hydra. In certain niche builds, you can use her as a mischief tank because she gives herself a load of buffs. And then, more importantly, when the enemies are under 4 more debuffs, this A1 becomes an AoE and with decreased defense. So that's what makes her pretty strong. You're getting 2 for 1 mischief tank plus AoE decreased defense. So she kind of fills those 2 roles. And obviously hitting AoE on an A1 lets her stack up some pretty good damage. You could put her in the curse set, for instance, and then fill 3 roles. What else? I think that's kind of it. One more shout out. Jurajin I've seen used as the damage dealer on the stage. I used Masamoto, but I think I prefer Masamoto for other usage. Let's jump over to the spreadsheet. We move from Dwarves to Shadowkin. Kinagashi actually coming out with a lot of stages. I do have her built, and I generally didn't use her, to be honest. I found her, again, quite frustrating. I think I used her on a couple of stages, but not that many. And I wouldn't really recommend you building her unless, as always, unless it's going to help you clear one of those stages in particular, then you can't do it any other way. Yeah, she ended up being, like I said, kind of quite annoying. Then you do have Suren here, who has that AoE decreased defense. Did I build Tomo? No, I don't think I did. So forget her. Hitatsu coming out again. Fenchi, as we mentioned. Masamoto and Oboro. Burangiri's actually another champion I should have mentioned because he has an AoE chance to stun. But I don't really remember seeing him pop up in Soulcross. Or at least I didn't make use of him. And then there is that Taragi. And if we go to the extremely difficult stages, Kinagashi actually, again, appearing in 4 stages, and that is a reviver, so maybe I was a little bit too harsh if we do jump back to her. We do have this revive single target with an okay amount of HP, and turn meter on a 4-turn cooldown does give them increased defense. You do get, what annoys me is it's only a single random ally rather than, say, 2. You do get small TM film, that's on a 3-turn. And then you have a chance, basically, 2 hit with a small TM drop. I think she's just weak overall. So maybe there are instances where it'll be helpful to have that reviver when you're really trying to just progress through. But I was not reaching to use her. I generally found her quite poor. Masamoto, actually, as a damage dealer, is available 3 times in these tricky stages. So a decent one to build. And I'm therefore a little bit more glad that I invested in him as a damage dealer option. Beyond the rest of it, as I mentioned, Taragi I definitely used for this stage here. And Burangiri is available in one of the stages as well, but I don't remember using him. So take that for what it is. In terms of who's going to benefit most from your high levels of awakening, again, anyone who's a main damage dealer. So Masamoto, Oboro, I mean, Genbo would, but doesn't really get used in Soulcross. And that's kind of it. I mean, Fenchi can hit hard, but single target, I can't see necessarily being that fussed about building one, unless, as always, it gives you something that you need. On to the Sylvan Watchers, the last of all. Not so many epics, but quite interesting faction overall. We do have probably one of the strongest overall epics in the game in Mistrider Daithi. I'm going to be completely tunnel vision, distracted by all the rest, and go straight to him. You have this self buff increase attack and increase accuracy, which, given you do want to land his debuffs, means you can build him with a bit less accuracy and really push out those damage stats. Also means he cycles his abilities really fast because he does get an extra turn. That is down to a 4-turn cooldown as well. Then also on a 4-turn cooldown, so given the extra turn, means really all of this is a 3-turn cooldown. You do get AoE decreased defense, and then you get another extra turn if you place it on all enemies, which then moves you to the A1. And look, you get, when booked, another 20% chance of getting an extra turn. So between all of these abilities, you can take, 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 turns in a row. And really, you should be killing someone at that point because you've self-buff increase attack, you've dropped defense, and you've had 2 chances of AoE, of A1 attacking. And if you've built him with good damage, he's gonna hit hard. I'm pretty sure his reviews are stellar and they are very deserved. He would obviously benefit enormously from a 6-star crushing rend, and equally epic empowerment as well. Who else really have I seen used? I've seen Pan used as a damage dealer on stage 19 against the Tarases. He does have quite an interesting overall kit, including the ability to ignore some defense, which is quite useful. You then can have True Fear going out as well. And he ignores the target's resistance, which generally just means you have to build him with as much accuracy. But equally, this one's particularly nice because he self-buffs. Anyone who self-buffs in Soulcross is generally very, very useful because you don't always have the increased damage dealing stat coming from anyone else on the team. So this way, you're going to get increased attack and increased speed on him and an AoE hit. That is going to do good work. And then you've also got this chance to freeze on the A1 paired with this chance to fear on the A3. So all in all, very useful champion for the stages where you need him. Although I'm pretty sure that same stage you can use Dythe, so you can just use 2 Dythes instead and not bother building a Pan. That's definitely a viable option. I'm pretty sure that's what I did, because I do have 2 Dythes built. Otherwise, I did use a Ruella on a finite stage. Really good again in terms of getting a turn meter fill on all your allies. You get a triple hit with 3 really important debuffs, or 2 really important debuffs in decreased defense and decreased speed. The slightly annoying thing, because you generally need that Ruella to drop that decreased speed, is you kind of can't use this against the shield. So you actually use the A1, which is also triple hit, so it doesn't really matter too much. You A1 until the shield's down, and then you make sure you get this decreased speed on. And then, once the decreased speed is on and the shield's down, you can then use the turn meter fill. And, she does her job well. You can see she's got pretty high ratings. I think some of them are deserved, but some of them probably aren't. She is entirely single target. Ornn, I did use as a damage dealer in that infamous stage 19. In one of the rotations as well. You do have AoE poison sensitivity, which is pretty good. You can instantly explode some of that poison, and you have a bit more poison on the A1. So all in all, really good against taking down those tanky champions because you're killing them with poison. Creedon, I don't really remember using him much, but obviously with this AoE freeze, high chance on a double hit, so the effective chance is very high, plus an increased speed TM fill on all your allies and a decent chance to freeze on the A1. Really, really good for wave clear content if you need to take down some waves that are, a little bit above your champion power. So where you can use him, he's well worth using. Kellen, I built for that stage S20 that I showed you at the beginning of the video, but it didn't work last time. and just generally found him a little bit underwhelming. I couldn't stack that many debuffs, so this wasn't really hitting that hard. This ability is kind of annoying because it's only a single target decreased speed. I kind of feel like this champion needs something more. I kind of think that if this was a AoE decreased speed and this was the single target, that kind of was a real nuke, if they had a decent number of debuffs, that would be more of a natural champion to me. That you get decreased speed AoE, you maybe, if you wanted, you get the weaken from the A1 as well, but say you get the decreased speed from Kellen, plus another champion gets, say, decreased defense, and then you have the single target that stacks up the damage, the debuffs. That, I think that would work better. But, whatever. It's it is what it is. Nia, very strong for Hydra. Obviously famous for being used as a budget champion to enable the Trunder nuking. You do have decreased speed on an AoE A1, and you have this reset ability on a target champion, reducing their skills by 2 turns. Also gives a decent heal and removes all debuffs, so really good overall. The A3 you rarely get to use as a result because you tend to be cycling A1s and A2s, but it does give a small strengthen to all allies and ally protection, so not too bad. And then you do get this kind of like spreading heal. So you can use, say, Lifesteal on Nia, attack with the A1 with, say, War Master, do some decent damage, and then you kind of heal everyone else off the back of it. Cormac, again, I did build him for that stage and found him underwhelming. All single target, you do get a bit of a self buff with an extra turn, but it's not increased attack. That's the problem. It's increased accuracy and increased crit rate, which really doesn't stack as well. You do get a decreased defense before attacking. Again, it didn't hit hard enough to justify that being this champion's basically his only thing. is you self buff and then you do 2 single targets. Like, these need to be completely knockout killer blows, and they're decent damage, but they're not special. Awakening, yeah, Dythe, absolutely the one you want in terms of empowerment. Same. Duoden, actually, I do have to mention as well, did use him in 1 or 2 stages. Kind of a weird champion, but pretty decent in its own way. Does get out a taunt with strengthen and counterattack on himself, which works out quite nice because the A1 has a chance of removing debuff from your allies. So if the enemy takes a turn, AoE kind of puts out some debuffs on you, you counterattack, and then you have a decent chance of removing that debuff that they just landed. So it kind of works quite nicely. And then the A2 is an AoE hit, which increases duration of all buffs. So if you put him in, say, like a bolster set, and he can keep himself alive, you then also get this extra shield as well from the A2. And obviously you've got this taunt, strength, and counterattack. So the overall thing makes him pretty tanky and pretty useful. That kind of sums it up. Let's jump over to the spreadsheet and let's see for Sylvan Watchers. The new Void epic actually comes in with the most stages at 15, which often tends to be the case. Wiranon, who I actually don't have, just does a single target revive and gives you increased speed with a TM fill on her 8-2, kind of a real out-and-out support champion. Does come in 12 stages, and if you really needed a reviver for those stages, could be useful, but typically I'd say in Soulcross you don't want to be relying on a reviver. You want to be killing the enemy and crowd controlling them as much as possible. Unsurprisingly, 2 force-based epic attack from the same faction have the exact same uses, and although Pan is good, if you have multiple copies of Dythe, probably just worth building 2 copies of Dythe and not bothering with the Pan. I am going to build my Pan, though, to check him out and see if he hits materially harder than Dythe. Probably doesn't. I haven't checked the multipliers. Maybe it does. It'd be fun anyway. Why not? Then you do have that Cormac, Duoden, and Kellen, who we mentioned as well. Lochwain, I do feel like I've seen someone use him in something, but I can't remember which stages I saw anyone use him. I didn't have one built, so I didn't. And Creodan coming in 9 stages as well. If we go to the extreme difficulty stages, that is where you get the Pan, Dythi, and Duoden coming in strong there. Those are really the 3 that you want to focus on. Beyond that, there you do have Lochwain, you do have Nier, Kellen Shriek, all of these champions making a solitary appearance. If we jump over to the finite combo, we do have, where is he? Misrider Dythi comes once, who could be used because you do have the extra turn mechanic, but I don't remember him actually being used by me. Ruella, really the one that you tend to want to use against Fire Knight, and that's on the double 1, and on traditional Fire Knight, again, we have that Ruella coming through on rotation 1. So really, you're looking at Ruella for 2 Fire Knight stages, and Mistrider Dythi, and probably Duoden. Those are probably your 3 best for Soulcross, and then beyond that, Nier and Creodan for just general epic utility, and obviously that shout out for Ornn. Yeah, that is that. A lot of them. Only 3 factions in this last stage. It still took me half an hour. A lot of waffling. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed all 4 of those videos, and they've been very instructive, and will help you decide who to build, who to focus on, and not maybe stress out that if you do get some of those champions, you're like, is it worth building? Am I only going to be a flash in the pan? Well, hopefully this will, reassure you that you should invest in these really top tier epics. They will be with you for a long time. As always, thanks for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.